Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God Yahweh. To his only God, saying, Shy, who the word and call Jesus Christ. It's your brother Kalak Yahweh. I'm back with another video, man, another lesson. Lord willing, this one edifies and feeds the sheep, right? Lord willing, it exhorts us to be circumspect in these times, to watch as well as pray, as Scripture tells us to do, right? In these times that we're in, because these are some very, very turbulent times that we're in, right? So, what inspired this lesson was, as you can see by the title, it is a precept. It is one of those things, major things that Christ told us to do, right? And at camp yesterday, today being Sunday, so I don't know, probably by the time this video comes out, it'll be what, Wednesday or Thursday, one of those days, right? So Saturday we was at camp teaching, and this precept was brought out, right? And we touched on it a little bit, and it got me thinking. We're living in an age where everything is so much like granderized. I don't even know if that's a word or not, but everything is so like put on Instagram and up in your face, where you can see the success of other people. You can see the lifestyle of other people, and it gets you to thinking like, damn, I want that for myself too, right? Or damn, how can I get to that level? And that type of mindset has us willing to do anything for to reach that level, right? Whether it's whether you believe in these what you call it, there's conspiracy theories about the Illuminati having to sell your soul and stuff like that to get to that level, or whether you don't believe in it, still a form of selling your soul or selling your morals. So we're gonna dive into that because we see a lot of people doing that today. It may not be at a high level where you see like celebrities and stuff like that. It could just be at a local level, right? Where you see people in the community doing certain things they shouldn't be doing because their integrity has been compromised, right? Or allowing stuff they shouldn't allow to pass because their morals and integrity have been compromised, right? So let's get into it. This is the first verse we're going to tackle, right? So this is Mark chapter 8 and verse. Where do I want to start? Matter of fact, let's start at verse 35. For whosoever shall save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel, the same shall save it. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Right. So this is the life that we're living in right now, where people don't value their own soul. Right. A person's sense of self worth is so destroyed that they don't value their own mind. Right. Because that's what the soul is. The Hebraic understanding of the soul is your consciousness, your mind, your psyche. Right. So what is it going to profit you if you sell your soul, if you sell your morals, if you sell your mind, right? If you sell what keeps you grounded and you get to that level and you're out of your mind, you're insane, right? You can't enjoy the riches that you sold your soul for. So what's it going to profit you? You're not in your right mind to enjoy it, right? You're not in your right mind to enjoy it, but we as a people nowadays are so quick to sell our soul, to sell our integrity, to sell our mind out, right? For a quick buck. It may not even be for money, just for comfortability for yourself versus holding on to that moral, holding on to that integrity, right? And this is where we're at right now, right? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his own soul? What worth is your mind? What can you give in exchange for your mind? What is an equal value to your mind? Nothing, right? Your mind is a precious thing, right? One of the most precious things you could possess, right? And the billionaires understand this, right? There's a TikTok. I don't know if you guys ever came across it, but it was a person. I don't know if he was a billionaire or a millionaire. He said, "Just give me more time, right? I could trade all this money, all this capital, all this stuff I have. I could trade it if you could give me more time." Why? Because he still has his mind, right? He still has his mind. If he had more time, he would still have his mind. He'll be able to create that. But our people are willing to sell out our mind. People are willing to sell out for a quick buck, not knowing that money is not what makes you, right? Riches is not what makes you, right? Let me jump down to this preset real quick. Is it 8? Let me check really quick. Yeah, it is 8. right? So this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, and verse 11. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not compared to it, right? So you want to sell your mind for precious stuff, right? But scriptures just tell you all that precious stuff you can get. Wisdom is more precious than that. It's better than that. Wisdom is worth more than that. So seek wisdom, which is the law, statutes, and commandments, right? But you're selling out your mind. You're doing whatever. You're compromising your morals, right? For whatever, when you should be seeking wisdom that's going to establish you. If you really want rubies, right? Seek wisdom. Wisdom is better than rubies. Wisdom could give you rubies and much more than that. But you're settling, right? With wisdom, you don't have to sacrifice your morals for a gain. With wisdom, wisdom can have your morals intact, and you still get that if you retain onto wisdom. But our people are so quick to sacrifice their integrity, to sacrifice their morals for that, right? And it's not going to be worth anything in the end. It's not. Well, let's get that in Proverbs because it's not going to be worth anything. It's truly, truly not. You're going to get all of that, right? And at the end of the day, you're going to feel worthless because you sacrifice your morals, your integrity, right? You sacrifice your soul to get there, right? This book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 4. Riches profit not in a day of wrath, but righteousness delivered from death. They're not going to do anything for you. That money, right? That bankroll, which you got in your bank account, that's not going to profit you in a day of wrath. Nothing is going to profit you in a day of wrath except for righteousness. That's what's going to deliver you from death. But you can't be righteous because you done sold your mind for that. You done sold your integrity for that. You done sold your morals for that. You compromise your morals for that, right? You compromise your morals for that, and we see that in a big way, right? It's prophesied to happen in a big way. It's prophesied to happen in a big way because people extol money more than riches. This is why it's going to happen in a big way. So those of you that have an ear to hear, right, listen. I'm going to touch this very briefly, right? Where do I want to start from? And it says, right? I'm going to start at verse 16. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their forehead, so that no man might buy or sell save he that have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let he that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. And his number is 600, 6. Right. So the point I go to for here, right, it's going to be a time where there's going to be a mark. The mark of the beast is going to be implemented. Right. You all should be, if you're not familiar with that, it's the RFID microchip. Right. So there's going to come a time where it's going to be implemented, it's going to be enforced. And there's going to be people that are going to, again, sell out their morals and integrity because they know they should not be getting that, right? Because it causes all, great and small, rich and bond, to buy it so that no man might sell or buy. So you can't interact or you can't trade, you can't do business without it, right? Which business is going to give you gain, is going to give you money, is going to give you all of that, right? Because you love that more than you love the Lord. You're going to, again, sell out your soul for that, right? So it's prophesied to happen in a big way because that mindset is already in our people, to sell out for money, to sell out for a gain, to sell out for everything that's not money, right? So I want that to be in the back of our minds. We should not be extolling our monetary carnal gain more than our soul, more than our mind, more than staying in our right estate, more than being righteous. That should not be more prevalent to us, right? Carnal things should not be more prevalent than the spiritual things, right? Because throughout the scripture, we done always seen, right? If your spirit is right, the Lord is going to be right with you in carnality, and your flesh is going to follow it. Meaning, the spiritual leads first, and then the flesh follows it, like the physical follows it. If you're righteous, you're not going to want for anything, right? But if you're always following your flesh, if your flesh is always leading you, you're always going to be wanting because you're never going to be satisfied. The flesh is never satisfied, right? But the spirit is righteous. The spirit is satisfied with righteousness. So that consciousness, that soul, where the spirit and the flesh meet, has to be more spiritual than fleshly, right? So you have to follow the spirit more than you follow the flesh. That your consciousness has to be geared towards spiritual, not carnal, right? So you can't sell out your mind if you're spiritually minded. You can't sell out your soul if you're spiritually minded, right? And let me show you what that spirit is. Right? This is one of my favorite scriptures that I learned early on. This is the book of Romans, chapter 7, and verse 14. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin, right? That carnality is the flesh, right? It'll lead you to sin, but the law is spiritual, right? So as long as you're spiritually minded, you won't be selling out your soul. You won't be selling out your mind because your mind is towards spiritual things. Carnality isn't going to be able to get you, right? Because what is it going to be worth? Again, it can't be worth anything if you sell your soul, if you sell your mind, if you sell out your mind, right? Because let's think how important your mind is, right? The Bible tells us what a man thinketh, that's what he is, right? Where a man's thoughts are lied, that's where his treasure is, right? So if your mind is corrupted, you sell out your mind and you're thinking about these perverse things that you sold your mind to, your actions are going to reflect those perverse things that you sold your soul to, that you sold your mind to. That's what your treasure is, right? So your actions are going to reflect that. So you're going to be a perverse man, a wicked man, right? That's what it means to sell out your soul, for you to be Shalakia, geared towards those become essentially your God. The people or the ideology that you sold your mind to, that's what's going to govern you now, and your actions are going to reflect that. So if it's money that you sold out to, money becomes your God now, and everything you do is going to be for a gain, right? So it's very important that we're spiritually minded, right? That we're not selling out to these things, right? Let me get another precept. It's the book of First Peter, chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour, right? So we got to be sober minded. We got to be meditating on these laws daily, as scripture tells us. That's what keeps us sober, right? So that way we're careful not to slip, and we're careful not to walk down the path that leads us to selling our soul, that leads us to selling our morals, our integrity, which should be the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High God, right? But because we have, this is what it leads us to. It leads us to things like this happening. So, like, yeah. It leads us to things like this happening. Therefore, my people are going into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude is dried up with thirst. Right? That's why we're going into captivity, because we have no knowledge. We sold our knowledge out, which should be on our mind, which should be our moral compass. We sold out for that. Right? That's why we're going into captivity. So it's important for us not to be sellouts, because that's what essentially it means to sell your soul, right? You hear the term sellouts in the world. Well, what's a sellout? Well, you sold your integrity out to do whatever it is that the ruling power requires of you, which more than likely 9 times out of 10, really 10 times out of 10, it's never good for your people. But because you're a sellout, you don't care about the betterment of your people. You don't even care about the betterment of yourself. It's all for gain, because again, you're a slave to that ideology now, right? You sold your soul. You're not in your right mind to even make proper decisions, right? And this is what landed us here, because we had sellouts in our community that we didn't deal with, right? And these people are our leaders, right? Again, they're honorable men or families because they sold out, right? We have few and far honorable men because, again, every time we get somebody that is in a prominent place, uh, 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 the elites come and they're able to bribe them, right? And because they're not sober minded, they sell out, right? They sell their soul for a gain. And now it's not about the people anymore. It's about, I'm part of that agenda now. I got to further that agenda, right? But over here on the Lord's side, this is what we know. We know that Christ said this, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. We know that. We understand that we can't sell out, because God's spirituality, the laws and commandments, that's what he gave us. That's what we got to stand on. That's what it means to be sober minded, to realize that gain is not important, right? Physical material gain is not important. Bread alone, we don't live by bread alone, right? Yeah, you could eat food, yeah, you could eat that, but if you don't have righteous purpose, you're gonna be empty in the end. No matter how many millions you make, if your spirit is not right, you're not gonna make it anywhere, right? If you're not aligned with the Most High God, you're not gonna make it anywhere. So we have to be sober minded in these times, right? You're not gonna make it anywhere if your mind is not aligned with the Most High God. Sorry to tell you that. It's just what it is, right? It's just what it is. You're not going to make it anywhere. So we know that if you're if you're chasing gain, right? All these people that talks about the hustle, man. I'm just now. It's different, right? Because you got bills to pay. I'm not telling you not to hustle, right? If you're hustling for the sake of feeding your people, that's understanding. But it becomes different when that's your number one priority, right? When that's your number one priority. I'm just trying to hustle. I'm just trying to hustle. Enough is never enough. You're never satisfied, right? Then you got to analyze. You got a problem, man, right? You do, because life is more than that. But because money is your God and that's what you worship, you're a slave to it. It's never enough, right? Let me get this in Mark, I believe. No, Slovakia. 12. Don't tell me I spelled Luke wrong. It's late, y'all. Give me some grace. It's late, y'all. Right. Right. So this is the book of Luke, chapter 12 and verse 15. He said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not of the abundance of the things which he possesseth. Right. That's not what makes you, that's not what gives you value. Right. A man's life does not consist of the abundance of the things he possesseth. You're not more of a man if you got $1 million in your bank account. Right. If you got this nice car, that don't make you more of a man. Or what makes you a man is actually keeping you lost as a man. That's what makes you a man. That's what we were going into Matthew 4 and 4 for, right? Life is more than these things. Life is more than just bread, right? Man shall live by every word that cometh out of the mouth of God, right? That's what we live by. That's what gives us purpose. That's what gives us actual life. Otherwise, you're just dead men walking. And Scripture says that in Proverbs, right? The congregation of the dead. You're more than your clothes. You're more than your remnants. You're more than what's in your pocket. You're more than that, right? But when you refuse to live up to it and you sell your soul to that ideology that that's all you are, that you only are the materialistic things that you possess, then you're dead. You're not living because you become consumed by that. You can't see past that. You can't see the joys of life, right? And when you're really in the spirit, when you're in the spirit of keeping the commandments of the Most High God, then you see it all. Then you're circumspect, as Scripture tells us to be, right? Man is more than these things. Let's go back to Matthew. Right. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 19. Lay not up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, or where thieves break in through and steal. But lay for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through. For where your treasure is, there also be your heart. Right? And we understand that Hebraic understanding for heart is your mind. Again, your soul, your mind, they're synonymous. Right? Your soul and your mind, it's like your soul and your heart, they're synonymous with the mind Hebraically, right? So put your mind towards heavenly things, heavenly riches, right? Because if your mind is towards carnal things, it's easy to be corrupted, right? If your mind is toward what type of car you got, you will be able to. It's easier to corrupt you for that. Like, that's the car you want. I get you that car if you do this for me. Or that's the house you want. I could get you that house if you do this for me. But if your mind is towards the kingdom, there's only one person that can get that to you, and that's the Lord. And there's only one way you could get that, and that doesn't involve selling your soul. right? So put your mind towards those heavenly riches. There's nothing in this age for you. Nothing. So put your mind towards the heavenly riches where people can't corrupt it for you, where your soul can't be traded or bartered for it, right? And that's a little quick lesson I have for y'all, man. I hope brothers and sisters will edify. I hope y'all stay in the spirit. I hope y'all gird up your mind. Scripture tells us that. Gird up your minds. Be sober minded. Protect your mind, right? Don't let Satan, because he's running around, as we read in 1 Peter 5:8. Satan's running around. He's trying to corrupt as many of us as he can. So we got to guard our mind. We got to protect our mind. We got to meditate daily, fast daily, pray daily, so that Satan doesn't succeed, right? So put our mind towards the heavenly things and endure. Right. So I hope I didn't take up too much of brothers' time, right? I hope brothers and sisters were edified. Just had this little quick lesson for y'all. Yeah. So with that one, say Shalom and Waflaba Ball.